we were talking about weaponizing certain psychological things, and there's some more examples that are important. So we talked about weaponizing transparency, and then we talked about weaponizing kindness. I have seen, so people can weaponize their own vulnerability, where it's like, I watched after Brene Browne came out and did her stuff on vulnerability, that then I saw all these things on Facebook of life coaches crying in the camera with tears in their eyes, showing how vulnerable they are. And, you know, then if you want to learn how to be vulnerable too, their package is for sale. And I'm like, oh, fucking, like that's like weaponizing via virtue signaling. Where the more vulnerable thing, if they were being really vulnerable, wouldn't be them crying about this thing that they've already resolved and is really not actually consequential to them, which is not real vulnerability. It would be them saying, I'm broke right now, guys, and I need to pay the bills, and I really want you to buy my package, and I think that it's beneficial for some people. And like that would be actual authenticity and vulnerability, which very rarely happens. I have seen, like, one of the worst ones is weaponizing apology and remorse. So again, associated with something like narcissism, generally, if the person feels that the person who's challenging them or upset with them doesn't have power, and they do, they will just say, this is your ego making up nonsense, and they'll gaslight them. But if the other person has power and they can't do that, because it's a whole group of people calling them out, or it's someone with a lot of following or whatever, then the most effective game theoretic thing for them to do might be to start crying and say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. This goes back to a childhood wound of mine, and it's really vulnerable, and I'm working on it, and I thought I had healed this pattern, and it's still showing up. Thank you for showing it to me. I'm really going to work on it. I want you guys to hold me accountable. And I have seen people do this with tears in their eyes, and a week later do the exact same thing when powerful people weren't around to hold them accountable. And that is basically weaponizing fake remorse and apology and whatever. So so if I notice that happen, what I know is that no words that person says will mean anything to me. So I would need to see if that doesn't mean that I've closed off redemptive possibilities. It means I need a different kind of signal. So if the person said, no, I've really made a change, I'd be like, awesome. I'm going to watch that bad behavior doesn't happen for 3 or 5 years. And including where you have to actually face consequential things, right? And so, again, the guy beats his wife when he's drunk, and then the next day apologizes, I love you, I'm sorry, I'm never going to drink again, and whatever, right? And the pattern keeps rinse, repeat. It's not an apology at the level that will actually change the pattern. Therefore, it is a weapon to keep her bound to an abuse cycle. So when is an apology or remorse or accountability real? Well, it's when it is at the level of depth that will actually change the behavior. If it isn't, then whether the person thinks they mean it in the moment or not, you shouldn't trust it, right? So I can obviously give a million examples. What I'm hoping is I've given enough examples that you can start finding your own examples. Now, does this mean that anytime someone is crying and apologizing that they are weaponizing it and not earnest? No, sometimes they might really be earnest and they're going to shift forever. Or they're going to start a process that will work with a difficult set of dynamics that might involve a little bit of relapse, but earnestly is oriented in a different direction, versus they're just doing the mea culpa they need to get out of accountability in the moment and then go back to power seeking as soon as everyone's attention is off of them. Which is why 3 months isn't enough, right? And now, can some people play a long game? Sure, we have seen some great political strategists who play a long game. So, even the principle of wait a few years is not a perfect principle, it's a rule of thumb.